There we go.
Okay, so hello and welcome to Shipmates. I'm Euan Richardson, the family support worker for Ship, and today I'm delighted to introduce a very special guest. It's the Member of Scottish Parliament for Perthshire North and the First Minister of Scotland, Mr. John Swinney. Thank you for coming on, John.
Lovely to see you, Ewan. Thank you for the invitation.
Not at all, not at all. So we've just completed our walk around of the building. We've had a look at all the groups, met some of the young people. John, what do you think?
I'm totally in awe of what SHIP is doing for young people. It's absolutely incredible to see the summer club in action and to see just such a lovely, happy, fulfilling, active, energetic set of activities that
Mhm.
the children and young people are involved in. The I literally can't quite believe how many children and young people are here. And then how many volunteers and
Mm.
staff are here to make sure that all the children are well supported and safe and stimulated. And to see it all happening in a school that's right at the heart of my constituency, Riverside Primary, which is a phenomenally good school, a great new build, a great investment in the North Muirton community. And to see it being used in the summer to bring such joy to the young people is just fabulous.
Yeah, yeah, and we're very appreciative of Riverside for letting us use their space because it is an amazing one. So I'll crack on with the first question. I want to talk a little bit about why childcare matters for families and children with additional support needs. So I'm just wondering, for you, why do you think that supporting families and young people with additional support needs is so important?
It's vital that for every child in our society that they have the best start in life and the best support in life. And for some young people and for some families, that will be fairly straightforward. For others, it will be more complex because of the needs of their children. But fundamentally, I come at all of these questions from the point of view that we've got to make sure that every child has a great start in life and a great opportunity. And if they have challenges, then we as a society have got to respond to that, adapt to that, and to make sure that the arrangements are put in place. Now, I'm very open minded about who does that. I don't think the public sector has got to do everything. And what I've seen this morning is a vivid example of how organisations in the third sector, like SHIP, can deliver an outstanding service and an outstanding quality of support to young people and to their families. And of course, during the summertime when the schools are not gathering, it, families need to find alternatives, and SHIP obviously provides that support for a range of young people and families in Perth and Kinross, and that's enormously welcome.
Also, we're very grateful from the for the funding that we've received from the Scottish Government as well, because it's good to know that we have the support in the third sector from the government and from other funders that we get to know that it's not just us that want to make this happen. It's not just us that believe these things. I think it's really good to know that we have that support from you and from other.
Well, I believe that we've got to have the best and the most comprehensive provision we can put in place. So, the government over the years, we've substantially expanded early learning and childcare,
Mm,
where, the next phase of that during this parliamentary term, I want us to get into a wraparound care model. Indeed, I think SHIP has some really interesting lessons to tell us about
mm,
the delivery of wraparound care beyond the school day. And I think that's a really good illustration about how um, such measures can work. It requires collaboration between a third sector partner and the local authority. Um, and that's a really interesting model
mm.
that can be taken forward. So I think there's a lot that we can learn from the experience that SHIP has amassed because it's obviously delivering good outcomes for children and young people.
Yeah, I think that something that we do that I don't see very often elsewhere is our volunteers. Obviously, you got a chance to meet a few of them downstairs today. We've got 31. Nicola was saying yesterday we had 45 volunteers, which is just incredible. So obviously we rely quite heavily on our volunteers. Um, and it allows us to provide that more one-to-one care for our young people because even with the number of staff that we have, the number of children is always going to outweigh that. There's always going to be more young people. So it's good to have the volunteers and, be able to a bit more personal support for them. Is this kind of this volunteer model something that you'd like to see put across Scotland in any other settings? And if so, how do you think that you could support this?
I think it's an interesting model because what's clear from what I've seen today is that the volunteers are supplementing the professional staff who are here providing the structure around about the care for children and young people. And of course, when a family are entrusting a child into a venture like this, they've
Mm.
got to be confident about the safety and the security of their child. And that's obviously central to the mission of SHIP. I think what was interesting, and you started off as a volunteer in
Yeah.
this unit, and I think it's interesting how individuals can come to this and can see this as um, a really effective way to spend some of their time. And some of that might be about providing some of the knowledge and awareness and perspective that's the foundation of a future career. In other circumstances, it can create an understanding of some of the challenges that individuals will face where they experience where they have additional support needs. So I think from a societal perspective, engaging a lot of young volunteers is really a crucial
Mm.
part of this exercise. And I think it's again there are interesting lessons to learn about this in terms of our wider provision. That when there is when there is such need in our society, when we have such pressures on our public finances, there are opportunities for us to enlist different models. And I think what SHIP has explained to me today is there is a different model that can essentially provide wraparound care for families, and that can be delivered by blend of staff and
Mm.
volunteers in the third sector. It doesn't all have to be done within the public sector. So I think there's some really interesting lessons to be learned there.
Yeah, I think so. So your government has said that it will invest £44 million each year to deliver Bright Start breakfast clubs across all primary and special schools from August 2027. So could you tell us why you think that's so important?
I think it's vital that children and young people are able to start the school day in as good a position as they can. And sometimes children will come to school and they won't have had breakfast. And, I know what I'm like if I've got an empty stomach to start the day. So you can't learn effectively if you've got an
Mhm.
empty stomach at the start of the day. And so it's all part of the measures that we are taking to, again, to deliver on that principle that every child has got to have the best start in the day, best start in life. And as a consequence, we've got to invest to make that happen. And I think the concept of access to breakfast in schools is a vital part of making sure young people start the day in the best position they can.
No, I agree. I think I've been on a couple of school placements for my uni course doing primary teaching, and um, I think the difference that having that option, they both had breakfast clubs, and the option of breakfast for those young people made such a difference for them. Because I
Yeah.
think you can just see the difference in their face from when they come in and from when they return to the classroom 20 minutes later with a full stomach.
There's also another perspective. I had a really interesting experience in one breakfast club that I was visiting and engaged with, and the, the breakfast club had started as as a voluntary measure within the school, and a group was put
Mm,
together, and they then reached out to say that parents were welcome to come in with the children, and particularly one parent had come in, a lady who was a single mum, and she came in and she lacked confidence. She was not really engaging, and the team worked hard to engage her. And to cut a long story short, over a period of time, that lady became the organizer of the breakfast club, and she joined the labour market.
mhm.
Became employed. So the there's a multiplicity of reasons why people face difficulty in life and they're isolated.
Mm,
And a bit of human kindness goes
yeah.
a long way to try to reach people and to help to transform their lives. So there are ways in which the breakfast clubs will undoubtedly be of enormous benefit to children, but there might also be a beneficial effect for parents as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So A lot is already being done to support low-income families pay for childcare, but would you please shed some light on what exactly is being done by your government for this?
We've got, when we came to office, there for, for 3 and 4 year olds, there would be a provision of about 412 hours of early learning and childcare in the year. Now that's 1140 hours. So we've delivered a phenomenal
Mm,
expansion. It's also available to some 2 year olds who would benefit from such support. But what I realise is the gap now. So we've travelled a huge distance and we've got a much broader provision. And many children are getting a much better start in life. But there are limitations to the provision. So there's a particular gap from essentially the end of statutory maternity leave at about a baby being 9 months
mm,
old and reaching 3. So we're trying to fill that gap with early learning childcare from the end of statutory maternity leave until a child leaves primary school. So we have wraparound care
mm,
for uh, children and young people after school, and that we put in place the expansion of early learning childcare to younger children. So that's the agenda that we're going to pursue
mm.
during this parliamentary term.
Good, good. So I think that, like you say about the parents struggling, because many of them, as my in my role as family support worker, a lot of parents have said to me that their biggest barrier isn't finding childcare; it's finding childcare that works for their child individually. And uh, I think maybe it would be good if you could tell us a little bit more about how this government plans to address this and how we can, because obviously it's all well and good having us that, and we can look after young people with complex needs and we can take all these things on. But is there anything that this government is going to do to expand that to other services so that it's not just the one option for these families?
What I want to see us moving to is a model where there is more flexibility and more choice for parents.
Mm,
And it's interesting that I'm listening with care to what's been said around about Parliament, because obviously I lead a government that doesn't command a majority in Parliament. If I want to do things, I've got to have other folk who, frankly, vote with me.
mm,
And I've been listening carefully to what others are saying, and there is a bit of a view emerging within Parliament that recognises the need for there to be more flexibility within the delivery of early learning and childcare to better meet parental needs and
mm.
aspirations, to meet the needs of children and young people into the bargain. So I hope to tap into that in the course of this parliamentary term and to build a bit of agreement about taking forward an approach that will give us the opportunity to offer more flexibility to parents and families.
And how, I mean, how do you think do you think that's maybe a case of having more staff training, or do you think it's maybe a case of,
It's about having different models that will work for people, because I think there is a tendency in the public sector for us to say, well, look, we'll design this and we'll provide this service and this is what we offer.
mm,
And that might be fine for me, but it might be inconvenient for you. And so my needs are getting met, but
yeah,
yours
no,
aren't.
it's true.
And I don't think that's acceptable. So we've got to have an approach which has got a great deal more flexibility about it, so that we can respond to the needs and the hopes and the aspirations of individuals.
Um, we'll move on to our final question of the day. So currently, our after school club has 46 families using the service across 12 different schools in Perthshire. So the families rely very heavily on this service to maintain their employment and their respite. And funding is normally done on a yearly basis, but this is quite difficult to give families the confidence that the service will be running long term. So, is this something that could be addressed so that our families know that we're going to still be there this time
Mm.
next year and the year after?
I think that's an important question about some of the general challenges that exist about the sustainability of the third sector. And one of my priorities is to try to strengthen
Mm,
that security of provision, because without the work of the third sector, we wouldn't be able to meet all the needs within our society. So trying to ensure that we take forward a very supportive agenda that we try to give longer term commitments about funding. We're trying to move to 3-year funding for the third sector. We've got more financial scope to do that, and I'm keen to make sure that we can achieve that. So there are different ways in which we can take forward that agenda and make it effective, and to provide that longer term support, because we need organisations like SHIP and many other organisations. We're really blessed in Perth and Canoss with a range of third sector
Mm.
organisations that
It's
we have.
amazing, isn't it?
Really blessed.
Really good.
They are supported so well by many different players, not least of which the Ganachie Trust, who supports
Mhm.
so many different ventures in Perth and Kinross. And I want to make sure that we work in a collaborative way to make the most of that.
And that's a conversation I feel like I've had a lot with in this role, going to coffee and chats and going to networking events with PCAVs and PAs and parent to parent, Down syndrome Scotland, all of these places in Perth that are very active in this area. We all have the same goal. We all know what we're working towards. We want to make things easier for these families. What's the point in doing it? What's the point in me doing one thing and this place doing one other thing? And it's so much easier and makes so much more sense for us all to work together
Yeah, yeah.
collaboratively
Mm.
towards what is a
I think
common
that's
goal.
well. I think the way through a lot of this is by focusing on the needs of the individual.
Mm,
If we do that, then we have the opportunity to make as much progress as we possibly can do. And I think that's an exciting prospect.
absolutely. Well, thank you very much for coming on the
Thank you, Euan.
podcast today. It means a lot to have you along today, and I hope that you've enjoyed
I've loved
your
it.
experience here.
It's been a really wonderful experience to see so many happy children and young people who are using the service, but also who are providing the service
Hmm.
amongst the volunteers and the staff.
Absolutely.
It's a really hopeful, happy, optimistic, joyful environment, and I'm in awe of what SHIP is doing within Perth and Kinross.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.